Hello guys. Today in this video we are going to look into the recap of the movie LA Confidential. During the Christmas time of 1952, cop Wendell Bud White Russell Crowe, while out on an alcohol run with his accomplice, Dick Stensland, monitors a parolee he'd shipped off San Quentin State Penitentiary and finds him genuinely mishandling his better half. Bud has no capacity to bear the people who are rough with ladies, perceiving how his own mom was killed by his alcoholic and oppressive dad. To draw the wife-beater outside, Bud yanks the man's lit Santa sled and reindeer beautifications from the top of the house. At the point when the man comes outside to stand up to White, White pounds him into the ground and cuffs him to the yard railing. Bud tells the man he'll be sent back to jail for around a year and a half and that he'll watch him after he's delivered, taking steps to send him back on a kid assault charge. Bud and Stensland go to an alcohol store where they purchase liquor for a party at their region. Bud meets a delightful lady in the store named Lynn, who effectively perceives that he is a cop. Leaving the store, Bud sees a young lady, whose face is wounded and dressed, sitting in the secondary lounge of a vehicle with another unidentified man. At the point when Bud asks about what occurred, he is met by the vehicle's driver, Leland Buzz Meeks, who attempts to sparkle him on. Bud incapacitates him and asks further about the harmed lady, who lets him know herself that she's okay. He returns Meeks' gun and wallet. At the point when he returns to his own vehicle, Stensland affirms that Meeks is a previous cop. At an extravagant Hollywood Christmas celebration for the show Badge of Honor, Sergeant Jack Vincennes Kevin Spacey, an opiates criminal investigator, is hitting the dance floor with his date when he is met by Sid Hudgens. Vincennes is a specialized consultant to the show's lead entertainer Brett Chase, showing him the proper behavior like a cop. He's likewise got a hustle moving on with Sid where he busts superstars for minor offenses and Sid then, at that point, composes terrible tattle to demolish their professions in hush. This evening, Sid has a warm tip for Jack. Two divas, Matt Reynolds and Tammy Jordan, have bought a little amount of weed and have leased an inn cottage. Sid guarantees Vincennes a $50 installment for doing the bust, in return for selective inclusion in hush. However, Vincennes ups the interest to $100 to cover the unexpected settlements for two patrolmen and a watch commandant. At a nearby police region, Sergeant Edmund Ed Exley Guy Pierce has been allotted as watch authority for the night. He is consulted by a journalist from the Los Angeles Times, who referred to his late dad Preston Exley's own well-known standing as a cop, proposing that Exley has a great deal to satisfy. Exley additionally converses with his chief, Dudley Smith James Cromwell, who communicates disillusionment in the youthful official and cautions that except if he will take on the ruthless strategies establishing proof, inquisitive beatings utilized by officials like his dad, he won't ever be a fruitful investigator in the division. Exley plans to construct his profession as a genuine cop, regardless of whether that implies being an outcast with the typical police. As a final useful tidbit, Smith desires Exley not to wear his glasses since no other person on the power wears them. Vincennes busts Matt and Tammy and captures them in a bombastic show that Sid titles as the film premiere pot bust, because of Vincennes coordinating Sid to take the article picture from such a point in order to catch a cinema debut happening behind the scenes. While Vincennes is researching the lodge, he pockets the modest quantity of Mary Jane that the two brought and is charmed to find a business card for an organization called Fleur de Lis. He takes them to Smith's police headquarters and has them reserved for ownership of cannabis. Exley denies the $10 payoff Jack offers him, an answer that confuses Vincennes. At that point, 3 Mexican suspects are acquired. It is accepted they attacked 2 cops, who emerged from the occurrence with minor wounds. The subtleties of the occurrence immediately become exaggerated as tattle spreads. Vincennes himself adds to the acceleration and the alcoholic party participants are persuaded to think the 2 officials are close to death in the clinic. Stensland and a portion of the other party participants, currently intensely inebriated, rush down the stairs to the holding region. Declining to perceive Exley's position as watch administrator, the scene rapidly becomes terrible as the Mexican detainees are violently beaten. Exley is secured in the disconnection room when he attempts to mediate. White attempts to pull Stensland off one of the detainees and quiet him down just to get incited into the assault when offended by one of them. Vincennes participates too when a detainee falls on him, bloodying his extravagant suit. The columnists who'd been talking with Exley are likewise present, snapping a photograph of the battle. The photograph of the prison scuffle makes the first page of the Los Angeles Times, depicting the occurrence as horrendous Christmas, igniting public shock and interest for the people in question to be considered responsible. The LAPD chief, District Attorney Ellis Lowe and Dudley Smith meet with White, Vincennes and Exley independently. White steadfastly won't betray Stensland as the instigator of the episode and is requested suspended without pay. Exley is more helpful, realizing that his own declaration will tie down him an advancement to lieutenant and investigator level, consents to show up in court as an unexpected observer, and furthermore shows political discernment that even Smith couldn't envision. The public won't be cheerful assuming that the police cover this embarrassment, so the fault ought to be moved to members who have proactively gotten their benefits and can be persuaded to take exits from the workforce, while prosecuting Stensland and White as the ones who bought the alcohol for the party. DA Lowe concurs, and the chief promptly has Exley elevated to lieutenant, noticing matches between Exley's ascent and that of his dad on the spot. In any case, Lowe and Smith note that Exley's declaration will be useless except if they can create another observer. For this, Exley recommends Vincennes, figuring he can be constrained to affirm with the danger of losing his specialized consultant job on Badge of Honor. The authorities welcome Exley to see as Vincennes meets with them and they spread out Exley's arrangement. Vincennes concurs and acknowledges an exchange to the Bad Habit Division following a brief suspension, however rushes to sort out that Exley is the star observer. In no time, the aftermath from the embarrassment blows over. Stensland is terminated so the police have a substitute who can assume all the fault for the occurrence, while a few different officials are constrained into exiting the workforce. Exley climbs to homicide downtown, and is promptly detested by his kindred partners. White is taken off suspension when he consents to help Smith and investigators Michael Bruning and William Carlisle in another task, in which they capture mobsters who mean to move into LA and assume control over Mickey Cohen's organizations. The suspects are taken to a remote and deserted inn complex called the Victory and are beaten by White and undermined into leaving the city. While this goes on, a few previous Cohen lieutenants are gunned somewhere near two-man groups furnished with Thompson submachine firearms in what the media guessed to be an epic showdown to oversee the void left by Cohen's detainment. In one episode, Cohen's top heroin vendor is killed in his home and 20 kilograms of item is taken by the unidentified executioners. Vincennes is briefly suspended for his arrangement with the DA, and upon his re-establishment is relegated to a vice team hoping to separate prostitution rings around the city. He's charmed when he sees an image of a bloom on the dossier he's given and remembers it is the logo from the Fleur de Lis business card he tracked down in Matt Reynolds' cabin. In any case, his endeavor to reach them via telephone is fruitless. On his most memorable night in Homicide, soon after 2 a.m., Exley gets a call about a homicide at the Night Owl Cafe, a customary home base for cops. Exley shows up on the scene and finds the cook shot dead behind the counter, and the sales register emptied, proposing a burglary. He sees an upset seat and acknowledges there were a few clients inside. He then sees a blood trail that prompts the men's washroom. Following this path, he finds 5 additional bodies stacked up in the restroom, all loaded with shotgun impacts. Dudley Smith shows up and expects order of the examination, making Exley his second in order. The criminology group rapidly reports that there were 6 casualties. The still up in the air to have discharged 15 rounds, which recommends 3 Remington shotguns with 5 fired limit and 3 shooters. It likewise turns out that one of the departed has been recognized as Stensland. White hurries to the medical clinic mortuary to check the body out. Disheartened to see his companion among the dead, particularly taking into account that he'd simply addressed him a couple of hours sooner in the parking structure after he gave up his identification and firearm, he requests the story from Exley, who fills him in. He and Exley then, at that point, sit in as one more of the people in question. Susan Lefferts is distinguished by her mom. At the point when he sees her body, Bud quickly perceives Susan as the lady in the vehicle who gave off an impression of being harmed the night he and Stensland were buying the alcohol. Setting to the side any remaining examinations, the senior analysts from all divisions are appointed to the inquiry and anxiety of the Night Owl executioners. Likely arousing a lot of dismay for his kindred analysts, Exley himself will lead the cross-examinations of the suspects when they are gotten. Leads are not many, however. A report of 3 Negro guys shooting shotguns, driving a late 1940s Mercury coupe, will be trailed by all the 2-man groups included. White is shaken by the way that 2 of the Night Owl casualties, Stensland and Lefferts, ran into each other so presently before the killings. Following up on his hunches, he strikes out all alone to follow this lead, declining to be joined forces. He gets back to the alcohol store where he met Lynn, and after asking the proprietor, is given the location of a man named Pierce Patchett, David Strathairn, the man sitting close to Lefferts the night he met her and Meeks. Bud converses with Patchett and figures out that the lady he met in the alcohol store, Lynn Bracken, Kim Basinger, and Lefferts are important for a prostitution ring run by Patchett himself that utilizes plastic medical procedure to provide his ladies with the presence of well-known celebrities. The prostitution ring is named Fleur de Lis, which unbeknownst to White is the ring that Vincennes has been investigating. Lynn is Patchett's Veronica Lake while Lefferts was his Rita Hayworth. Nonetheless, Patchett won't unveil any insights regarding Lefferts' homicide and stops the gathering. Exley joins Vincennes on a hunch and they turn up the location of Sugar Ray Collins, who drives the vehicle referenced leading the pack. They track the man and his 2 companions to their home and track down the vehicle and shotguns in a carport. They additionally find Bruning and Carlisle have outsmarted them. Vincennes contends momentarily with the 2 different officials about who will capture the 3 men. Bruning and Carlisle had arrived first and Vincennes realizes the capture will get him back in with the Opiates crew. Exley takes advantage and orders them to all continue together, and Collins and his amigos, Ty Jones, and Louis Fontaine, are captured absent a lot of occurrence, in spite of the fact that Exley needs to redirect Carlisle's shotgun to hold him back from shooting one of the suspects. During the scrutinizing of the suspects and thoughtfully utilizing the cross-examination room's PA speakers and amplifiers, Exley exhibits splendid strategic expertise, fooling the 3 men into accepting they have informed on one another. The 3 as of now have criminal records and have invested energy in adolescent offices, which Exley likewise uses for his potential benefit. One of them, crying and almost insane, lets Exley know that they'd visited the place of another man, Sylvester Fitch, so he could lose his virginity to a lady held hostage there. Angered, Bud White races into Ty Jones' room and, attracting his gun and discharging each chamber the chamber yet one, he places the gag in the man's mouth and plays Russian roulette, requesting Fitch's location, which Jones surrenders. A group is conveyed to Fitch's home. White sneaks in first, finding a youthful Mexican lady bound exposed to a bed and clearly beaten, and potentially assaulted. Bud finds Fitch staring at the TV, and shoots him dead, prior to establishing a discharged gun on him. At the point when the casualty is driven away in a rescue vehicle, Exley attempts to ask her when the 3 people of color left her, however White stops him, waving the rescue vehicle away. Bud appears to be incensed that Exley is just worried about facilitating his profession, which Exley counters by saying that Stensland got what he merited, and White's destiny will be something very similar. White attempts to go after Exley, however is kept down. At that point a report is given that the 3 dark suspects have gotten away from the region. Exley, conversing with a transcriber, gets a location that was given by one of the individuals of color where they had purchased drugs. Unfit to get Vincennes, Exley takes Carlisle with him to the location and they burst in to track down the 3 suspects there with their opiates provider, Roland Navarrete. At the point when Louis unintentionally thumps a jug off the table, the combative Carlisle shoots him. Crap hits the fan as Navarrete mortally shoots Carlisle on numerous occasions, until Exley shoots him. Ty Jones endeavors to snatch a gun, yet he is likewise fired dead by Exley. Collins attempts to escape to the lift, however Exley jams his shotgun in similarly as the entryway is going to close and takes him out also. Exley is welcomed as a legend back at the station and Smith names him Shotgun Ed. With the case shut, Exley is given the division's most elevated beautification, the Medal of Valor, for grit in the line of obligation, and gains the appreciation of different criminal investigators in the office who recently scorned him. Vincennes gets back to the narcotics crew in the Symbol of Honor TV show. Meanwhile, Patchett kicks things off on an aggressive venture, a road running from the eastern segments of LA to the seashores of Santa Monica, one he has vigorously put resources into. To do as such, he has coerced a councilman into supporting the undertaking with some compromising photographs showing him cutting loose with Lynn. White in the end starts a close connection with Lynn and proceeds with his work with Smith, beating mobsters at the Victory. The work before long starts to wear White out, and his issue with Lynn progressively mellow his awful disposition. At some point, during a mission rally on the arrangement of Symbol of Honor, Vincennes is drawn closer by Sid Hudgens with another work. Hudgens is purposely setting up LA District Attorney Lowe in a coercion conspire by orchestrating a sexual experience with Matt Reynolds, a similar youthful entertainer captured by Jack himself at Christmas, both of whom will be busted by Vincennes. Vincennes attempts to inquire as to whether Sid has any information about Patchett's prostitution ring, however Sid is as yet not of help as Patchett isn't the kind of individual he could destroy with an embarrassment. While knocking off drinks at a bar and taking a gander at the $50 note Sid gave him, Vincennes starts to foster disquiet about setting up Reynolds and the DA. He concludes he'll let the youthful entertainer free, and ventures out in front of the booked photograph shoot to converse with Reynolds. All things considered, to his shock, somebody has broken into Reynolds' room and slit his jugular. Notwithstanding, White becomes dubious of a significant number of the subtleties encompassing the Night Owl murders and converses with the coroner. The documents from the case are still in the specialist's lab. Concentrating on an image of the seating region, White notification a spot of blood on the wall close to one of the tables, as though one of the casualties was taken out prior to being hauled into the men's restroom. The specialist takes note of that blood stain was Stensland's blood. The food on the table, and a lipstick blemish on the espresso mug in Stensland's place, demonstrate to Bud that Stensland had been there with a lady. White recollects Stensland said he was going out on the town that evening, and reasons that he might have had a sweetheart. He is persuaded to think that said sweetheart was Susan Lefferts, as the main other female casualty was the night shift server. White's doubt is affirmed when he visits Lefferts' distressed mother and she recognizes Stensland from a photo, a man she objected to. She likewise tells White that Stensland had recently been seen with another man conveying a huge pack into her patio. At the point when White notification that Mrs. Lefferts has a towel set at the lower part of an entryway prompting her back sun space to impede serious areas of strength for an odor, he looks at the unfinished plumbing space under the house and tracks down a severely decayed body. He tracks down a wallet in the dead man's jacket, causing him a deep sense of shock. The body is that of Buzz Meeks, Patchett's previous escort and the man Bud had first seen external the alcohol store at Christmas. Bud purposely abandons the body for another person to find and lets Lefferts' mom know that the odor is a major rodent, giving her the cash in Meeks' wallet. Back at the station, Exley starts to think again about the Night Owl case also while wheeling Inez Soto, the suspect's assault casualty, out of the clinic to be marched before the press, when Inez specifies being uncertain concerning what time the Night Owl thinks left her. This leads him to go down to the coroner that White had addressed before. Exley takes cues from White to Mrs. Lefferts' home and tracks down Meeks' remaining parts. He takes it to the mortuary, requesting a personality on the body and that the coroner share it with no other person, then, at that point, goes to Vincennes and requests his assist in exploring with facilitating insights regarding the Night Owl case. Exley persuades Vincennes by sharing the tale of how his dad was killed by an irregular mugger, whom was rarely distinguished, yet whom Exley has named, Rollo Tomasi, to give him a character. Vincennes consents to assist Exley on the off chance that Exley would willing assist him with addressing Reynolds' homicide. Vincennes tails White to the Formosa bar where White finds Mickey Cohen's previous implementer Johnny Stompanato, and finds out after generally crushing the man's groin that Meeks had come into a huge stockpile of heroin. White presumes that Meeks was killed for it. Vincennes and Exley next see White at Lynn Bracken's home. Vincennes recalls Fleur-de-Lis, and understands that Lynn is one of Patchett's whores, and visit Patchett to find a few solutions for Vincennes' case. As they're leaving, a call comes in letting them know that Meeks' body has been ID'd. Exley sends Vincennes to get the news while Exley visits Bracken. Declining to respond to the lieutenant's inquiries, she lures him while Sid Hudgens photos them both from behind a one-way reflect. Vincennes, going through old records, tracks down an association between Dudley Smith, Meeks, and Stensland. He goes to Smith's home to ask about the work that Meeks and Stensland accomplished for Smith on some vice cases they worked 12 years sooner. What Vincennes doesn't know about is that Smith is as a matter of fact that Night Owl instigator, something he possibly acknowledges when Smith out of nowhere creates a gun and fires him after he concedes that he's not yet trusted this lead to Exley. Recalling what Exley trusted in him about his dad's executioner, he has one final comment to Smith before he lapses, Rollo Tomasi. Smith reports the following day that the office will suspend any remaining cases until Jack's executioner is found. He talks straightforwardly to Exley about the main lead, Jack's final words, thinking that Rollo Tomasi isn't a placeholder name yet a genuine individual Vincennes is familiar with. Exley figures out how to keep an indifferent expression as he understands that Dudley could know that name, assuming that he was the person who shot Vincennes. He lies and says he remains unaware of the name. Dudley then, at that point, meets with White and condemns him for what he considers an absence of excitement concerning his work. He additionally tells White that they'll be going to the Victory Motel to cross-examine the man he accepts last saw Vincennes alive. It ends up being Sid Hudgens. Dudley poses him a couple of inquiries which don't give a lot of data. Nonetheless, during the beating regulated by White himself, Hudgens discusses how Pierce Patchett involves his people for shakedown. He makes reference to that he's captured a cop having intercourse with Lynn. White becomes rankled, feeling that Hudgens kept an eye on him. He turns Hudgens' seat over and surges out to the journalist's vehicle. In the storage compartment, he tracks down pictures, not of himself with Lynn, but rather of Lynn with Exley. White turns out to be additionally infuriated and drives off. In the interim, Smith and Bruning suffocate Hudgens over his fights that he was important for a group with them. Exley checks with record saving for capture warrant books on Buzz Meeks and don't tracks down anything. At the point when he checks the day-to-day log books, he finds that Smith had approved virtually all of Meeks and Stensland's work for a long time and understands the association between them is conspicuous. White visits Lynn's home, angrily and enviously requesting to be aware of her tryst with Exley. At the point when she attempts to quiet him down, he hits her, swelling her face. White leaves in a fierceness. White finds Exley in the records room at the station and goes after him in the wake of showing him the photograph of he and Lynn together. Exley figures out how to ward White off and understands that Dudley planned for White to track down the photos so he would be incited into killing Exley, giving Dudley influence over White. The two stop their fight and start to survey all that they've each revealed about the scheme. Meeks, Stensland, Vincennes, Reynolds, the missing heroine are undeniably connected. Exley presently understands that the individuals of color that were accused of the Night Owl assault were set up. When he and Vincennes appeared, Bruning and Carlyle were at that point there and had established the shotguns, and planned to kill the three men so that no inquiries would be posed assuming they were discovered opposing capture. To sort everything out, the two consent to function as accomplices, even to the detriment of Exley's standing for settling the Night Owl murder case, which constructed his profession. They go to Lowe's office and request wiretaps for Smith. Lowe denies and further will not reveal any data about Reynolds' homicide and excuses them, venturing into his office restroom. White pushes the DA's head into the latrine and hangs him through the window. Lowe caverns and lets him know that Reynolds was killed on the grounds that he was available when he and Smith quarreled about the suspicion of the Cohen drug managing rackets. Lowe was permitted to live in light of his impact and on the grounds that he vowed not to arraign them. Bud and Ed concur that their next stop is Patchett's home. At the point when they show up there, they observe that they're past the point of no return, as Dudley or somebody working for him has cut Patchett's wrists and made it seem to be a self-destruction. Accepting that Lynn had some information on Patchett's arrangement, they organize to have her taken to a close by police headquarters for security. Exley goes there and converses with her, saying Bud feels incredible regret for beating her. White goes to Sid Hudgens' office and finds that Smith has unloaded his body there, yet the criminal investigators note it'll be difficult to nail it to anyone given the quantity of individuals Sid uncovered junk on for Hush. While there, he gets a call advising him to meet Exley at the Victory Motel. At the Victory, the two observe that the assembles were planted to get them in a weak area. They hold up in a similar lodge where Sid Hudgens was killed. Smith's men approach the lodge and White and Exley open shoot, a savage gunfight results. They at last kill Smith's men, but they are all faced by Smith himself, who shoots White, compelling him to fall. Smith turns his firearm on a cornered Exley, who says, "Rollo Tomasi." Smith asks who the man is. Exley lets him know it's Smith himself, simply on the grounds that he's a man who can dodge the law. Smith hears moving towards squad cars and advises Exley to leave with him, promising to additional the more youthful man's vocation. He likewise advises Ed to show his identification. Exley shoots Smith toward the back and leaves, holding his identification as Smith educated. Sitting in one of a similar meeting rooms he used to grill the three people of color, Exley makes sense of the many-sided associations for the situation. The DA and LAPD chief are doubtful yet understand the office's standing for maintaining the law will be compromised. While drifting the arrangement of praising Smith with Exley's assistance, they spot Exley radiating. At the point when the chief asks him for what good reason, he says they'll require more than one legend. Yet again in the last scene, Exley is given the LAPD Medal of Valor. He spots Lynn and leaves with her. In her vehicle is Bud White, swathed and recuperating from his injuries. Lynn says they're going to her old neighborhood of Bisbee, Arizona. Ed and Bud shakes hands and Lynn drives off, Bud waving somewhat to Exley. Thank you and see you soon in next recap. Have a good day.